Thanks so much for joining us. We are the Massie twins from GoneWithTheTwins.com, and today we'll be talking about Jumanji: The Next Level. So this is the sequel to the remake of the Jumanji film. So this one, interestingly enough, how the previous one ended is neither here nor there, because once again the Jumanji game comes right back into existence, and it's there readily available for these kids.
You'd think
after
the first one they would have put that thing under lock and key.
But instead, here it is, and the Spencer character once again tinkers with it and goes back into the game, and his hopes is that he will become the Dwayne Johnson avatar, or the Dr. Bravestone. Yeah, once again he'll become that character, and but there's a little bit of a glitch, and so the avatars are changed up. So this is the first small, modicum of something interesting where they've kind of played around with these characters, and so now we've also got Spencer's grandfather is played by Danny DeVito, and his good pal is Milo, yes, and that is
Danny Glover.
Danny Glover, yes, and so those two new characters, it's kind of the grumpy old men vibe, or maybe a little bit of city slickers in there.
They're throwing the old in with the
yeah, and so you get that kind of contrast, the comedy of these two older characters who don't know how video games work, they don't understand the system, and then two of the original characters having to show them how it all works. And so this paves the way for a lot of repetitive, recycled jokes. Yeah. And I was joking with you before that it still works here in a lot of ways, because those jokes, it's a throwback. We're still in the early phase of, oh, well, it was clever in the first film, now you nod toward it again, and it's still kind of funny. I really worry about when they make a third film, because then that's when these very same jokes will get
They're
very,
already
very stale.
Getting right to that edge of being so repetitive that it's almost...
But it's still, I got to admit, I do like seeing Dwayne Johnson and Kevin
It's
Hart
a good ensemble cast.
I
really
and Jack
enjoyed
Black
the addition of Glover and Danny DeVito.
Yeah, and we also here get, there's some new avatars. So there's not a lot of new creativity going on. A lot of the same kinds of things. We've got like an ostrich stampede that substitutes for the previous stampede, and you get
there always has to be a stampede.
Yeah, there's still a snake and a hippopotamus, and booby traps and those kinds of things. This one feels a little bit more like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. The plot is very much ripped from that.
Several scenes are taken straight from Indiana Jones films. The booby traps.
Yeah, but at least we get Awkwafina here, who's maybe one of the best new additions to this.
She kind of steals the show a little bit.
Yeah, and she has a small part, but
typically with these sequels like this, they should try to up the ante a little bit from the previous film. Here, both thematically and adventure-wise, I don't think they upped the ante at all.
No.
They kept everything almost exactly beat for beat the same as the previous. Now, what keeps it still entertaining is simply reversing all of the avatars again. Yes. So now you get characters having to portray the opposite of what they had to portray in the previous one, which was already the opposite of what their real characters were in real life.
Sure. So, yeah, and one of the things that I noticed this time around, for me, the part of the problem here is that this film feels like it is made by people who don't play video games, which is a little problematic, because a large portion of this is how they are immersed in this. It's like the ultimate VR.
They've made that commitment to say they're inside this video game.
And I was talking to you about this earlier. The original Jumanji movie with Robin Williams, it's board game based. So this one it makes sense. We're new era. We bring it up. We update it to where now it's a cartridge based video game. The problem is, in the original Jumanji, it was a board game, and they brought the jungle and they brought all of the hazards of the jungle into the world, right? So they're not in a board game. They're using the board game to progress in harrowing misadventures, jungle-based. So it's jungle-based. This new film, because they are actually inside of the video game, you kind of expect video game things. So it's not all jungle-based, it's video game-based. And they brought this upon themselves by having all of these avatars being inside this video game. And that's a little problematic, because there's all of the areas where they could have had really innovative references to video games, they don't come across this way. But one of the most missed opportunities, the biggest missed opportunity, I should say, is they have a little throwaway costume change idea that they put in here, and it's not used in a creative way that
it's not done in a way
it doesn't feel like
video
a video
games would use.
Yeah. In fact, it's just practical, because there's a transition where they go into a colder climate, and I think the actors just needed a reason to have jackets on. So yeah, it's like, again, that the designers
the
don't play video games.
concept of every character has X amount of lives.
Yeah.
They also don't use that to great effect, because they have to everybody starts with 3 lives, and they have to come up with ways to just get rid of some lives real quick through really silly means, simply because there's too many lives going around.
The
There's
movie's
too many
not
characters
long enough to sustain, you've got 5 or 6 different main characters here, and they all have, that's 15, 18 different lives. So a couple of scenes, they just have to try to throw them away to get rid of them, to kind of make things throw and speed it up.
One of the new things they added is that each character has an additional power that they didn't have before, or some of them have additional weaknesses, but there's really no explanation for that. They don't really use it to great effect. It's kind of just thrown in there.
There's a cut scene that they make, but that it's not really used in any great way. Once again, the villain doesn't really mean much.
None of their misadventures really mean a whole lot until they're on their last life.
Well, and here too, it's both good and bad. Is the fact that they've changed the environment. It's not jungle based anymore. They now, there's a sand dune kind of a Lawrence of Arabia sort of a vibe.
Mixing up the scenery is not
so that's an escalation, right? So I like that. I like that they've removed it from the jungle, but we're still very much in the same Jumanji video game. We're still very much playing by the same rules, same avatars, and that kind of thing. So it's enjoyable, like the first film. It's enjoyable. A lot of little laughs, no real big belly laughs, but a lot of laughs, which they sustain. Lovable avatars. I find myself liking Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart and Karen Gillan and Jack Black more than the teenagers.
They're more entertaining than they are.
We don't
in real
really
life.
know or care about those characters. We just want to see the Avatar characters. But it's more of the same. So again, I really worry about the third film.
If you enjoyed the first one or the second one, the first reboot, then this one has plenty more of the exact same thing. Perhaps a little too close to the exact same thing, but it's still entertaining. And I think the new additions, bringing those old characters into the game and having to play younger characters, very different versions of themselves, is a lot of fun. And Awkwafina, I thought, stole the show a little bit in her brief moments. But as you mentioned, I think that you get a lot of little laughs throughout, so it's fairly consistent in that way. But we're missing the belly laughs. There's no big scene that's just fall out of your chair funny in this at all. But.
Well, and things like Jack Black playing or an effeminate kind of a thing. It's repetitive here whereas before it was particularly amusing.
I
the first time he does it.
I did appreciate a lot the characters having to act like Danny DeVito and Danny Glover.
So there's a lot to like, but again, it's more of the same as well.
But it does make you worry a bit for the third one.
For sure. All right, well, thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you guys the next time.